think we've forgotten how DIY it all was in the early days.
Scary at first because you didn't know what was going on.
Back then it was, you're gonna die, but now it's the complete opposite. We're gonna live.
And that's what I'm most worried about, our young people today feeling like they can't be themselves.
Was a key pivotal moment for bringing folks out of the closet.
Oh my God, you're part of Maine history now.
We are together.
What does pride mean to you? Well, for the LGBTQ+ community, it means the freedom to live their most authentic lives. It's what we celebrate every June all across the country and here in Maine. But the journey to get here wasn't an easy one, and there's still a long way to go. LGBTQ+ people have been fighting for their rights for decades. In Maine, much of that history is captured in newsletters published by small grassroots organizations, and they were shared in unexpected havens. Tucked away in Portland's West End is a place you'd almost miss. It's called Blackstone's.
Back in the day, everybody used to come here before they went out at night.
Keith Bennett has tended bar here for more than 3 decades.
Born at Mercy Hospital, right 3 doors down.
The neon signs, the leather stools, the pool table. You might think it looks like just another dive bar, but it's the city's oldest gay bar.
30 years ago, I used to kind of walk out and look both ways. It's kind of surreal, actually.
Bennett says that fear became almost normal. These windows used to be intentionally shattered by vandals regularly. A space meant to be a refuge for the gay community was also a target.
I've had broken ribs. I've had a broken collarbone.
That's something Roland Labby knows firsthand.
I've had the brick thrown in my face. Here I am presenting a trophy.
All those injuries are now a distant memory. These photos are a reminder of when he opened Portland's very first openly gay bar back in 1967, named, well, Roland's. It was a place where people could drink, perform in drag shows, find community. A spot he says he had to fight every day to keep open.
Lots of broken bones, but I never gave up. I would not allow them to get the best of me.
Erupted shortly before midnight.
Eventually, though, they did. In 1981, Roland's was set on fire and burned to the ground. A piece of history and a dream up in smoke.
It hit me mentally and physically. It really did. You know, I said, I can't do this anymore. Sorry. It's hard to talk about.
I think we've forgotten how DIY it all was in the early days.
Megan McGregor has become an expert in the at times dark history of Portland's gay bar scene, many of which became not just havens for acceptance, but for activism.
When the AIDS epidemic hits here in Maine in '83, they are doing organizing and classes of what safe sex looks like. What do you need to know about AIDS in the bars?
In total, we now know of at least 20 bars in Portland that were exclusively LGBTQ establishments over the last 50 years. Today, Blackstone's is all that's left.
The fact that those have kind of died, I think, also speaks to the fact that the community, especially here in Portland, it's a lot safer to go anywhere, so you don't just have to go to a gay bar.
Perhaps a sign of a changing time. Time that for Keith Bennett is marked by loss.
Here's a bartender here, too.
But time has also meant progress.
Yeah, my brother can pop in, my sister can pop in.
A future he and so many others helped create.
No fear anymore. There's no judgment.
Now, Blackstone's is one of several landmarks that are part of a tour in Portland this month. USM's LGBTQ+ collection is hosting those tours throughout the month of June. You can find more information on our website and mobile app. The gay movement here in Maine dates back decades, starting with the first openly gay organization at the University of Maine called the Wild Stein Club in 1973. From there, it grew into a yearly meeting known as the Gay Symposium. But it wasn't for another decade the movement truly became a political one.
Yeah.
You can often find Dale McCormick with a tool in hand, tackling yet another project.
I have too many. I'm too busy.
But there's one project she's most proud of, leading the fight for equality in Maine.
We have asked the state legislature 4 times to take a stand on discrimination against gay and lesbian people.
As the first openly gay member of the state legislature, she's never been afraid to speak her mind, always looking for the positive.
My mother called me a goddamn Pollyanna one day, and she's right, I pretty much am.
Dale used that to help found and become the first president of the Maine Lesbian Gay Political Alliance in the 1980s. The group was influential in efforts to establish and protect the rights of LGBTQ+ people at a time when acceptance, let alone tolerance, was hard to come by.
That one of the huge pushbacks we were getting from society at large was, well, you chose this. You could choose not to be gay.
The MLGPA is known for its decades of work to get a civil rights bill passed that prohibits discrimination on the basis of sexuality or gender identity in the state.
Biggest accomplishments, many think, is just that we formed MLGPA to stick up for ourselves. We decided to try to change how we were thought of.
But that change took time. The organization formed in the midst of the AIDS crisis. Howard Solomon lost his first partner to the virus.
Ron died in January 1989. And then, only then, did I really start reaching out to get engaged with activism.
It brought many like him together to make sure resources and education were reaching those in the state who needed it most.
For many gay men, the organizing in the late 80s largely centered around AIDS. We were taking care of ourselves and we were taking care of our brothers.
But there was one moment that changed everything. In July of 1984, Charlie Howard was walking in downtown Bangor, his boyfriend Roy by his side, when a group of teens approached them, shouting homophobic slurs before throwing them into the Kentuskeg stream. Charlie couldn't swim and died. He was only 23.
Well, it absolutely was a catalyst.
Charlie Howard's death was a key pivotal moment for bringing folks out of the closet.
It frightens me. I'm frightened now, angry.
I can't tolerate somebody getting killed over just his sexuality.
While years, even decades have passed, Charlie Howard's death still resonates here in the Queen City. There's now a rainbow-painted crosswalk and a memorial in his honor.
It's a reminder every year that we have come a long way and there's still a long way to go.
Jill Henderson with the Maine Health Equity Alliance organizes Bangor's annual Pride events. It's a celebration Charlie never got. And each year, they're reminded of the dark history they continue to reckon with.
Because we're still fighting for safety, we're still fighting so that nothing like Charlie Howard ever happens again.
As for Dale McCormick, she's still fighting too.
I'm not discouraged, but I'm just sick of it and I'm really mad.
Frustrated, but not broken by an increasingly hostile political environment that targets the LGBTQ+ community. She says she's just proud she and so many others helped build a stronger and better future. The Maine Lesbian Gay Political Alliance went on to become what we now know as Equality Maine. We'll have more about the work that organization is now doing a little later. When we talk about LGBTQ history, most people think of major cities like New York, Boston, maybe Portland. But a surprising part of Maine's gay history is rooted in the county. For many, music is an escape. Dick Harrison found his in Maine.
Well, I didn't come out till I was 27. I was living in Boston, and then I moved to Van Buren. That was a culture shock.
As a gay man in a small rural town right along the Canadian border, being out wasn't easy.
I would joke that I went back into the closet, but my door had louvers on it.
Which is why he knew there had to be others who felt the same way. He decided to form what's believed to be the state's first LGBTQ+ organization, Northern Lambda Nord, in 1980. But they needed a way to connect. So they raised the money to launch Maine's only gay lesbian phone line.
It was important for people living there at the time who just felt isolated. And if they found out that the group was around, they could go to a meeting, they can call the phone line, they could get support.
The original answering machine for that line is now a piece of history in the state's largest LGBTQ+ collection at the University of Southern Maine.
They raised the money both to have a phone line and to create an answering machine to allow people to connect, to get in touch with them, to ask them questions, to just have somebody else to talk to.
Just years after it started, it was no longer just a hotline for emotional support. It was a lifeline.
And it then became the AIDS hotline for the state. This wasn't a group in Portland who was setting up the AIDS hotline for the state. It was this social group up in Caribou, up in northern Maine. And I think that's a remarkable fact.
AIDS started to take hold of the gay community across the country. And yes, in rural Maine.
One of the first deaths in Maine was a man from Caribou. Scary at first because you didn't know what was going on.
A fear David Simpson knows all too well.
Hundreds. I've known hundreds of people that have died.
Some of whom he cared for in their final days at Franny Peabody in Portland, a hospice house founded by 80-year-old Frances Peabody, who lost her grandson to the virus.
A lot of people didn't have family. It gave them a place to come and pass.
Little did he know, he too would become a patient.
Yeah, I was afraid because back then you were going to die. Back then it was a death sentence.
But David survived and is now living with HIV undetectable. And Franny Peabody is now operating as the state's largest HIV/AIDS organization.
The state of Maine is one of the highest, has one of the highest viral load suppression rates of any state in the country, and we're really proud to be an organization that can contribute to that.
Katie Rutherford, who now runs the Franny Peabody Center in Portland, says that's due in large part to decades of work and progress. Now a test for the virus can be taken with simple kits at home.
So people can order them right from our website.
And the organization's no longer focused on hospice and instead provides things like housing support, access to care, and mental health resources.
And because of that access, people are living healthy with HIV. They have undetectable viral loads, so they cannot transmit the virus. That's really the goal.
As for Dick Harrison, there's no longer a need for an escape to live authentically. He's found peace. And over the years, he's helped so many others find their own.
Once people realize that they know gay people, it makes a difference. You put a face in front of it. It's not just some abstract idea. You know, these are your neighbors and your relatives.
There are still about 1,700 people living with HIV in Maine, according to the CDC. While there still isn't a cure, there is treatment and support. You can call the HIV/AIDS hotline at 1-800-851-2437. If you ask anyone what a turning point for gay rights was, most will point to the right to marry. For one couple in Maine, they never realized just how much their marriage would mean.
So many albums.
Stephen Bridges and Michael Snell look back on their wedding day.
We sat there for 2 hours.
A little differently than most.
It was crazy, and we didn't have time to think about it.
No tuxes, just t-shirts. No guests, just reporters.
Daughters were texting us, like, you're trending on the News Channel 6 website, you're trending on this, and over and over and over, making us a lot more nervous.
There, it's really did it.
When it struck midnight on December 29th, 2012, Stephen and Michael became Maine's first gay couple to legally marry.
We finally feel equal and happy to live in Maine.
New same-sex marriage law went into effect at midnight in Maine.
Their story quickly went national.
I think it really hit home for me the next day. I went into my office and somebody stopped me in the hallway that had seen the news and said, "Oh my God, you're part of Maine history now."
History that took a long time to create.
So there's a way in which the road to marriage nationally certainly flows in part through Maine.
Mary Bonato played a big part in that here in Maine and nationwide. In April 2009, the Maine legislature passed a bill to legalize same-sex marriage, only for it to be overturned by voters months later.
Seems in the end that Mainers are not ready to treat these families fairly.
And in 2012, voters changed their minds.
I'm not sure any state could have won a ballot measure on this issue in 2009, but Maine was a big part of making it possible to show the way of how to win. Directly with the people, not in court, not in the legislature, but directly with the people.
Maine became the first state in the country to legalize gay marriage by popular vote. Bonato took that momentum straight to the U.S. Supreme Court to fight state bans on same-sex marriage and won. Same-sex marriage was legalized nationwide in 2015.
Today, the court stood by a principle in this nation that we do not tolerate laws that disadvantage people because of who they are.
But the fight is far from over.
I know we're at a point of fear right now, but I am very hopeful that just as we have faced down fears before, we will get through this.
I understand there are going to be setbacks.
Gia Drew with Equality Maine advocates for LGBTQ plus Mainers every day.
Scary moment was last year when the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade. And in that conversation, we heard other Supreme Court justices saying, if we can do that, maybe we should re-examine all the things we've ruled on LGBTQ rights.
It's why recent attacks on gay and transgender people have hit especially close to home. Right now, lawmakers in Augusta are considering a number of anti-LGBTQ legislation,
as the content was not age appropriate.
The issues have even reached local school boards.
And that's what I'm most worried about, our young people today feeling like they can't be themselves.
And for Michael and Stephen, whether they expect it or not, they now recognize being a part of Maine's history, and sharing their story is important. Even though this wedding, captured more than 10 years ago, isn't the one they hold on to. This one is.
We actually had a commitment ceremony because we didn't think it was going to happen anytime soon.
They say their love was real, whether it was legal or not.
It was pretty special right from the first time we met.
Both Michael and Stephen say they've tried to stay away from the spotlight, but now they realize how important their story is to others in the LGBTQ community here in Maine. Before we leave you, a final word. Throughout Pride Month, companies, organizations fly rainbow flags, change their logos, and boast support for the LGBTQ plus community. I hope that by looking back at the fight for equality in Maine, you realize it took so many people from so many different walks of life facing discrimination, physical injury, heartbreak, and a whole lot of courage to be able to find the pride we celebrate. And that fight continues. For all of us here at News Center Maine, thank you so much for watching, and take care.